Picture this for a moment. It's late afternoon in rural Cambodia. The rice fields are a deep, shining green. Palm trees are swaying just a little, and far off you hear thunder rolling like a drum that's still deciding whether to play. Dark clouds pile up on the horizon, soft at the edges, but heavy, like they're full of stories as well as rain. Children are still laughing, running barefoot along the dikes, but the grown-ups are watching the sky now. An elder straightens up from the field, wipes the mud from his hands, and smiles. He looks at the clouds, listens to the wind, and says quietly, almost like he's talking to an old friend, the sky monks are arguing again. He's not checking a phone. There's no radar map, no forecast app. But in that one little sentence, there's weather prediction, humor, and a whole world of belief about what's happening above the fields. Welcome back to Ancient Echoes, where we journey through time and let the stories of Cambodia's past guide the way. I'm your host, James Bradley, and today, we're not heading into a stone temple. We're looking up. We're exploring the sky as Cambodia's second temple, a place of clouds, winds, and monsoon rains that has shaped Khmer imagination for centuries.
And I'm your co-host, Samnang Bradley. I love that, James, the sky as a second temple. For so many Cambodians, especially outside the cities, you don't just live next to the sky, you live with it. You read it, you listen to it, you even argue with it a little when the rain comes too early or too late.
In this episode, we're following those sky monks, rain brides, and wind spirits into Cambodia's weather lore. We'll explore how people once read, and still read, the sky to plant rice, to travel, to decide whether a wedding should be outdoors or definitely under a roof. We'll talk about thunder and lightning stories, rituals for inviting rain or calming a storm, and the little proverbs and children's songs that turn weather into wisdom. And by the end, my hope is that whenever you see a photo of a Cambodian sky or hear distant thunder, you'll hear a bit of these stories echoing inside it.
We're joined today by two wonderful guests. First, we have Dr. Sophia, a Khmer folklore scholar who has spent years collecting stories from villages all across Cambodia about clouds, winds, and monsoon rains. And next to her, smiling already, is someone who has actually lived under those skies in a very hands-on way, Uncle Dara, a village farmer and storyteller, who can probably tell the weather just from how the frogs are complaining.
Thank you, James and Samnang. It's wonderful to be here. When you study Khmer folklore, you quickly realize you can't escape the sky. It's in our origin myths, our moral stories, our jokes. So I'm very excited to talk about this living library above our heads. And thank you for inviting this old farmer, too. I don't have a degree like our doctor here, but I have many seasons on my face. If you live in the fields long enough, you start to feel when the sky is happy and when it's a little angry.
That is exactly the kind of wisdom we're hoping to unlock today. So let's start simple. Before we talk about sky monks and rain brides, let's ground ourselves in what the Cambodian sky actually does over a year. Samnang, for listeners who might not know much about Cambodia's climate, can you walk us through the basic rhythm of the monsoon here in a way that feels more like life than a textbook?
Sure. So if you imagine the year in Cambodia as a story, it really has two big chapters. One is the dry season, when the sky feels high and pale and the wind has a kind of dusty sharpness to it. The other is the rainy season, when the monsoon comes and the sky gets low, dramatic, and full of personality. From around November to about April, things are mostly dry. The fields crack a little, the rivers drop, and the sun is like a bright coin that never seems to go away. Then, as we move towards May and June, the wind direction shifts. Warm, moist air moves up from the sea, and suddenly the sky starts building these huge cloud mountains in the afternoon. For farmers, fishers, people living by rivers, that shift is everything. It decides when you plant, when you move your boats, when you fix the roof before it starts leaking.
Right, and before satellites and radar, that decision came from reading the signs. Not abstract data on a screen, but real clouds, real winds. Uncle, when you were a child, what did your family watch for to know the rains were truly coming?
Many things. My father used to point to the western sky in the late afternoon. If you see those tall, bright white clouds that look like big towers of cotton rising and then dark underneath, he would say, "Get the cows in. The monks in the sky are cooking something." We also watched the birds. If the swallows flew very low, almost kissing the water, we knew the air was heavy and rain was near. And when the frogs start singing loudly all at once in the paddies, that's like a village meeting about the coming storm. What I love about what Dara is saying is that in Khmer tradition, the sky is never separate from the rest of nature. You read the clouds, yes, but you also read the birds, the insects, even the smell of the wind. Elders will tell you, the wind from the east brings a certain smell. That one means gentle rain. The wind from the west with a dry, hot smell means trouble for the rice.
So you have this very grounded, almost scientific observation, but it's described in such a poetic way. The frogs hold a meeting. The sky monks are cooking something. That blend is what fascinates me. Sophia, could you introduce us to a few of these key sky characters in Khmer stories? Who are the monks, the dragons, the brides up there in the clouds?
Happily, let's start with thunder and lightning because children everywhere love those stories. In some Khmer tales, thunder is the sound of celestial beings, often likened to monks or powerful spirits, moving furniture in the sky or rolling great drums. Lightning is the flash when they open a window or when their weapons strike. There are also stories of a powerful naga, a kind of serpent or dragon spirit connected to water and rain. In some villages, people speak of a rain dragon whose movements in the clouds bring the monsoon, whose anger can mean violent storms. The idea is that rain is not just a physical event, it is a relationship. If you respect the land, the dragon is generous. If not, the dragon can be fierce.
I remember as a kid being told to behave when a storm was coming. My aunt would say, "Don't shout at each other, the sky monks are already arguing." It's this beautiful way of teaching children to respond to danger with calm and respect instead of panic.
Yes, exactly. When thunder is loud and close, some elders will quietly say a little prayer, or they tell the children, "The sky monks are scolding someone who wasted water." Then everybody laughs a bit, but also you think twice about pouring rice water down the drain.
That's such an interesting point, the way weather stories carry ethics. It's not just thunder is loud, it's thunder reminds you to be careful, to be respectful. What about the idea of a rain bride? That phrase is so evocative. Sophia, where does that come from?
In some regions, rain is personified as a young bride leaving her home to join a new family. When the first big rains of the monsoon arrive, people describe it as the bride coming to the land, bringing gifts of fertility and abundance. There are stories where the clouds are her relatives, escorting her, and the wind is the music of the procession. At the same time, there are tales of rain being shy or offended. If people quarrel too much, or if rituals of thanks are forgotten, the bride delays her arrival. So again, the weather becomes a mirror of social harmony. If the village lives well, the sky responds kindly.
It's so poetic, right? Instead of saying the monsoon pattern shifted this year, people might say the rain bride changed her mind, or she stopped along the way to rest. It turns climate and probability into story and relationship.
And for listeners, notice how this isn't about superstition in a shallow sense. It's a different language for talking about change, responsibility, even uncertainty. It's a way of taking something as huge as the sky and making it close enough to talk to. Now, when you have sky monks and rain brides and dragons overhead, you also get practices, ways of interacting with the sky in daily life. Let's talk about some of the rituals around rain. Dara, can you share a memory of how your village would respond when the rains were late?
When I was young, if the rain was very late and the rice seedlings were thirsty, the elders would talk to the monks at the pagoda. Sometimes they organized a simple ceremony, chanting, offerings of flowers and candles, and a request for compassion from the Buddha, from the spirits, from the sky itself. We children had our own part too. There was a playful little procession. We carried branches with green leaves, splashed water, sang teasing songs about the rain being lazy. It was half ritual, half game, but everyone understood the seriousness behind the fun. Our fields needed that water. Across Cambodia, you see many variations of rain-inviting practices. Some are very formal, at temples with monks chanting. Others are more local, involving a respected elder or a spirit medium. But most share a few elements: gratitude for past rains, an apology for any neglect of duties, and a promise to use the water wisely if it comes.
So they're not doing magic tricks to force the sky. It sounds more like a conversation, almost an apology and a hope offered together.
Exactly. And it's important to understand that these rituals live side by side with very practical knowledge. The same farmer who takes part in a rain-asking ceremony is also watching the soil, the temperature, the behavior of animals. Science and story are not enemies here. They're partners.
You see that even in small household gestures. For example, when a strong storm comes, some families quietly turn off loud music, close the doors gently, maybe light a stick of incense and say a short blessing. It's not about controlling the storm, it's about showing respect and a moment when you feel small.
My grandmother always said, when the lightning is very bright and the thunder very sharp, speak softly. The sky is already speaking loudly. So we would lower our voices, check that the animals were safe, and wait. There was fear sometimes, yes, but also a kind of shared patience.
I love that. When the sky raises its voice, you lower yours. There's a quiet wisdom there that feels very modern, actually, in a world that's always shouting. Let's bring this down from the clouds and onto the walls, the songs, the games. Sophia, where do we see this sky lore in Cambodian art and words?
If you walk into many pagodas, especially older ones, and look up at the murals along the upper walls, you'll often see rich skies painted above scenes from the Buddha's life or from the Jataka tales. The clouds are not just background. They curl and swirl, sometimes almost like dragons. Lightning bolts, rain lines, even flying celestial beings appear among them. At Angkor and other temple complexes, you can also find carvings where stormy seas, rivers, and cloud patterns frame the main figures. The sculptors understood that humans and gods do not exist in a vacuum. The sky and the weather are key parts of the story.
And then there's language. Khmer is full of proverbs and sayings about the sky and rain. One common idea is that gentle, steady rain is better than one dramatic downpour, just like steady kindness is better than one big show of generosity.
Sophia, could you share a simple Khmer phrase about rain that our listeners can remember and maybe even repeat?
Sure. One phrase many Cambodians know is pling chien, pling laor. It literally means, a rain that is slow is a good rain. You might say it when there is a gentle, soaking rain that will really feed the rice, not just run off the surface. Metaphorically, it's often used to praise slow, patient work or quiet generosity. Someone who helps regularly in small ways might be compared to that good, slow rain.
That's beautiful. And it shows how, when you live so closely with the monsoon, your moral language, your compliments, your advice, they borrow images from the sky.
For children, the sky lessons come in games and songs. When clouds are building up, we used to play little prediction games. Will the rain come before sunset or after? If you were wrong, you had to run around the house or sing a silly song. It makes you pay attention. There is also a children's song about thunder. It goes something like, "Thunder, thunder, don't scare us. We will share our rice. We will share our fish." Simple words, but behind them is a lesson about sharing blessings when they come.
So, from pagoda ceilings to playground rhymes, the sky is teaching you how to live, with patience, with generosity, with awareness that you're part of something bigger.
Let's return to daily life for a moment. Dara, you've planted rice, raised animals, sent your children on long journeys, all under this shifting sky. Can you share a memory of a decision you made based almost entirely on what the sky was telling you?
One year, many years ago, the radio said the rain would be strong that week, but I looked at the sky in the early morning, and it had that very high, thin cloud, almost like a veil, and the wind was cool and steady from the north. The birds were calm. My instinct said, no, not yet. So I delayed planting by a few days, even though some neighbors started already. The heavy rain came later than the forecast, and their seedlings suffered in the dry heat. Mine were later, but stronger. They teased me at first. Then later they joked, "Ha, you must be friends with the sky monks." Stories like that show why elder sky wisdom is still respected, even with modern information. It's built on a lifetime of small observations, linked with stories that make those details memorable.
And yet, around the world, younger generations often spend more time looking at screens than at clouds. Samnang, what do you see happening in Cambodia with this kind of weather lore? Is it being forgotten, transformed, revived?
I see a bit of everything. Some kids grow up in cities where the main experience of rain is traffic jams and wet shoes, not rice fields drinking deeply. They might not know the old proverbs or the games Dara described. At the same time, there's a growing interest, especially among students in the diaspora, in reconnecting with this kind of knowledge. I've had university students tell me, I started asking my grandparents about how they read the sky, and we talked for hours. So the stories are still there, but they need someone to ask, someone to listen.
I also see artists, filmmakers, and musicians bringing sky imagery back in new ways. Time-lapse videos of clouds over Angkor, songs that use the monsoon as a metaphor for emotion, visual art that paints naga-shaped storm clouds. So the sky monks and rain brides may dress differently now, but they are still visiting us.
That's such a lovely image, the old sky characters in new clothes. And it brings us to you, our listeners, wherever you are. Maybe you've never stood in a Cambodian rice field with thunder in the distance, but you have your own sky, your own clouds. We would love to see the skies where you are, and especially Cambodian skies if you've been here or you live here now. If a certain cloud formation reminds you of a dragon, or a photo of a storm over Phnom Penh suddenly looks like a rain bride's procession after this episode, share that with us.
Yes, take a photo of the sky, especially over Cambodia if you can, and post it on social media. Tag Ancient Echoes and tag my YouTube channel as well. I'll be putting up some companion visuals, time-lapse of monsoon clouds, close-ups of pagoda murals with storm scenes, maybe even a little Sky Monks animation if I'm feeling brave. When you share, tell us what story you imagine in that sky. Is it peaceful monks meditating on soft clouds, or a fierce naga stirring up the rain? We'll feature some of your posts and connect them to the lore we talked about today.
As we come to a close, I keep thinking about that elder in the field, looking up at the clouds and saying, "The sky monks are arguing again." In that moment, he was doing 3 things at once: predicting weather, sharing a joke, and passing on a way of seeing the world, where humans, spirits, and nature are in constant conversation.
Sky watching, in Cambodia and everywhere, can be a soft doorway into culture. You slow down, you notice patterns, you listen to old stories, and maybe create new ones. You realize that the same clouds that once watched over the Khmer Empire still drift above us today. Sophia, Dara, thank you both for bringing the sky a little closer to our listeners today.
Thank you. I hope next time your listeners look up, they feel that there might be a story looking back at them. And remember, when you hear thunder, you can smile and think, the sky monks are busy again. That way, even a storm becomes a friend.
If you enjoyed this journey into Cambodia's skies, make sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app and connect with us on social media. Share your sky photos, ask your own elders about weather wisdom, and tag us so we can learn together.
And don't forget to visit Samnang's YouTube channel for those visual explorations of Cambodian skies, pagoda murals, and more. It's a perfect companion to what you've heard today, where culture comes alive, not just in stone, but in clouds and wind. Next time on Ancient Echoes, we'll travel from the sky back down to the waterways, following stories along Cambodia's rivers and canals, how people read currents and reflections, almost the way they read clouds. Until then, let's unlock the echoes of history together.